edition of the Rockpile Report podcast. I am your host, Bill season ticket holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger, and we are live on YouTube. And guys, where else would you rather be than right here, right now? Good God, what just happened to us? I feel like
I know what happened.
I feel like Ricky Bobby, who just got his first ride in a race car, except in a bad way.
Cheers, because we have 1,000 subscribers now.
Yeah, let me toast to that.
There we go.
All I can think of is Rooster Cogburn going, "Fill your hand, you dog." it's a raw day, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! So, how's everybody else doing?
Super Mexican. I came in right when he was yelling and thought he was getting tortured.
I am Super Mexican. You see, I live a tortured existence. And do you know why? Because do you know why my existence is rough?
Because you don't know your dad?
Because I was born in Western New York. And my father was obsessed with a football team that continues to torment me on into my 30s and 40s. And I'm assuming that sort of like a generational curse, it will only perpetuate and be passed down to my children and their children. And this is what we call generational trauma. And we will all suffer. Like, I sent a coworker a text today and I just asked the question, did they build the whole city over an Indian burial ground? Like the whole thing? We know they moved a gravesite to build the stadium. Did they put the whole city just right on top of one? It's possible, isn't it? Guys, I'm glad you're all here tonight. Teddy Bandana, we are all super. Can we talk about the Sabres up on Toronto 3-2? Guys, it's the law. It's almost like a law of physics that no two Buffalo teams can be successful at the same time. If one of them is really high, the other has to meet a corresponding low. It's like low pressure systems when you talk about meteorology, something we're going to talk about in a second. No two Buffalo teams can ever thrive simultaneously. And so now it's our turn in the barrel. As the Sabres succeed, so shall we fall. What a time to be alive. Guys, we've got a packed show for you tonight. Obviously, you know what the soup du jour is. Before we get into it, I feel like this is a show where we're all in need of a little catharsis, a little conversation, a little bit of just exhumation on things. If I can use an SAT word there for a second. Chris, you probably have no idea what the hell that means.
No, I don't.
Ooh, this Cleveland Underground whiskey is good. Teddy Bandana, I've got my Angel's Envy ready for this one. Guys, I want to start as, you know what makes people feel good in moments like this? Schadenfreude. It's always good to find somebody else to point at and laugh when you don't feel good about yourself. Don't deny it. I mean, Lenny Klotch from Ghostbusters 2. It's every New Yorker's God-given right to be being miserable and treating people like dirt is every New Yorker's God-given right. It's one of my favorite quotes. And so with that said, I got some news tonight. We all saw it. Bill Polian, Hero of the Week.
Don't take it personally, all right? Franchise star players are a lot like Highlanders. There can only be one.
Guys, in a day where the Bills needed something, right? We needed a little something to pick us up, so some juice to kind of keep us moving here. Bill Polian may have provided the spark. So it's been announced that they announced first ballot Hall of Famers in the NFL tonight, and Bill Belichick will not qualify. Bill Belichick and all of his Super Bowl rings can go straight to hell because he will not qualify to be an NFL Hall of Famer as a first ballot guy. And apparently Bill Polian was instrumental in pulling the votes to get him there. And I feel like we need that. I feel like we needed a win today, and Bill Polian, God bless him, helped deliver it. Chris, I was going to get into zeros, but let's just talk about coaching. I think it's why everyone's here, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about this. Oh, and if there is a Bills update I'd like to give, I want to raise a glass. Chris, hey guys, those of you in the chat watching, before we jump into the coaching conversation, raise a glass to Finley. Raise a glass to Finley. Finley Wormall. Toast to Alex and his wife, and the newest member is a member of Bill's Mafia. I sometimes wonder if I'm doing the wrong thing, dragging my kids into this tortured existence that I was just talking about. And then I think, you know what? There's still people out here having kids and putting Bill stuff on them, and who will inevitably be like, Alex's son is going to wander into the room someday and go, Dad, why are you watching American football? And he's going to have to tell him, hey kid, there was a Josh Allen once. There was a Jim Kelly once. One time, this thing was good. I know it looks like crap right now. It's like, if we don't have a Super Bowl by the time that his newborn is like 10, he's never going to understand why his dad's obsessed with American football, will he? He's going to be like, Dad, why do you keep watching that terrible sports team over there across the pond? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Why do you do this to yourself? And he's going to go, well, you don't understand. There was a Jim Kelly and a Josh Allen, and there was all these failed Super Bowl runs. And if they don't have a ring to show for it, Alex's son is going to look at him and go, Dad, you're nuts. I'm going to go watch some of the football. I'm going to go watch some of the football. Who do you think his club would be? I'm thinking West Ham.
Millwall.
Alex, congratulations to you and the wife. I'm glad everybody's doing well and that everybody's happy and healthy.
Do you want to start with Kel in the comments? I'm okay with this hire, but then again, I had open heart surgery earlier this month. Probably needed it because I'm a Bills fan. I'm on a bunch of drugs.
Yes, that is, you know what? First of all, Kel, here, cheers to your recovery. Also, you're not wrong. I think that in order to be 100% on board with this, 100%, no questions asked, hey, I'm a company man, I love this, there's got to be some sort of like opiates involved. There has to be. Or copious amounts of whiskey. We're going to find out because I plan on testing that. Let's see, Chris, if there's enough bourbon to make me really love this idea. See, this is where we're at. Here I am talking about Alex's son never seeing, like, if he's older and the Bills don't have a Super Bowl, he's going to question why his dad spent his life agonizing over this. That's where we're at, right? Like, we're here to blow off steam and process exactly what the hell just happened to us. On the day that the Bills announce that the Bills have hired Joe Brady, former Bills offensive coordinator, as their head coach. And it feels awkward. It feels just as awkward as the firing of Sean McDermott did, if I can be honest. It feels disjointed. There's just something about the process where we arrived at this conclusion that seems like, doesn't it feel wrong that this is the conclusion that was arrived at?
Yeah. What were you doing when you found out? Because I'm going to say 4 minutes after Schefter's post, we had just started texting about something podcast related. So you had texted me that Joe Brady is the new coach, and I was also at work on the toilet. So fitting. See, I wish I could hear that. I wish that was my experience. No, instead, just like one by one, coworkers just started coming up to me and being like, so what do you think? And I was like, what do you mean? What do I think? And the one woman just went, oh, he doesn't know. And then turned around and ran away. See, it was almost like she knew that I was about to turn into Darth Vader. And she wanted to be as far away from the blast zone as possible. But no, it was just a bunch of coworkers who just kept coming up to me in a line being like, hey, because that's what happens, right? When people find out you're into a thing and then your secret gets out and they realize that you have a life outside of the office and that you have a whole different persona than the one that they kind of learned and know in the office professionally. Kind of like Anthony Prohaska. Yeah. What if he was on a work call and someone was like, oh, look at that, Joe Brady, and he's got to bite his tongue because no one knows at his work that he does a podcast and he's so involved. He's screaming internally and he's like, I can't say it, don't say it, don't say it. There it is. Who is that? Sean Delavan, such a meh hire. Yeah. I don't disagree. And I feel like I want to unpack how the hell we got here. See, last week, Cover One, Greg Thompson and I sat here and did a podcast together about the head coaching search. And I did kind of a lazy tiering system because I wasn't going to try to study these guys. I'm not going to pretend I know anything about all of the candidates. That's stupidity. But we took a look at who they might target. And we kind of agreed that there were some through lines, right? Like they'd probably lean towards offense and they'd probably be looking for someone younger. We discussed what a double-edged sword it would be going after someone who's young and considered an up-and-comer but lacks actual in-game experience when you're talking about handing it over to a team like the Bills who have no choice but to hit the ground running. They have to win in 2026. They have to find continuity in 2026. And so that was always the fear with some of these younger players who don't have actual play calling experience. You can tell me how smart they are,
What do they know about managing egos? What do they know about managing personalities while also being in charge of play calling and also being in charge of the CEO mentality that being a head coach is? That's what scared me. And we talked about that in depth with Greg. It's a great show. If you guys haven't listened to it, you might as well go now just so you can see what we missed out on. But there were some older guys out there who also made sense, but you'd have to be careful because you don't want to veer into hat on a hat territory where you're replacing McDermott with someone pretty similar to him, but less talented, like Tomlin or a Flores. The search that they did was pretty wide. I give them credit for that. But looking back, we should have seen the signs of what was taking place. Like the fact that Mike McDaniel pulled out before he ever actually sat with us. And that Rivers met with us and then like a day or two later was like, okay, guys. All right. I see what you're doing here.
See, I thought Rivers was gauging his interest in being a coach in general, because I wouldn't have been surprised if they met with him and then Joe Brady, because they did an internal hire, that you make Phillip Rivers your QB coach to get him started on his NFL coaching career if he wants it. But I mean, Phillip Rivers has to have 6 more kids he has to coach through high school, so that I could see why he goes back to being a high school coach.
Beth knows ball in the comments. The last time the Bills were this much of a joke around the NFL and the fan base was in this much of an uproar was the year we drafted Josh Allen. Look how that turned out. Just saying maybe. I don't think you're wrong, Beth. Right? Okay, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're wrong. In fact, tonight's podcast, what I want to unpack is a bunch of things. I want to unpack the idea that I want to talk about the process, though, about how we arrived at this decision, and then talk about the decision itself, because the process to me is where I get frustrated. It's not even so much that it's Joe Brady, right? Like that has its own wrinkles, and it's actually got some positives. It's got some negatives, but it's got some positives. Where this starts to lose me, though, or where I'm frustrated is the process by which you landed here seems... We're a team that continues to make poor choices, and we do it because you make one flawed decision and then you continue to compound it with other flawed decisions. And a part of me is afraid that this isn't just one more in a cascading series of poor choices. And I want to talk about that process. I'll explain what I mean. When you see all these guys opting out of their interviews and they go, nah, you know what? I don't want to go. Or, oh, okay, I'm pulling my name from consideration. It does give you the sense that they weren't actually, they walked away from it realizing, oh, the Bills are just using me. Or maybe they're not actually going to give me that shot at the head coaching job that it looks like they might. Maybe they're actually, like we talked about it, Greg and I, last week, about how young coaches will probably, they don't have the same Rolodex of coaching names. So they're going to need people to help the franchise to put together a staff for them, or at least assist in that process. Kind of like Robert Saleh taking a number of the 49ers coaches with him.
And Brian Daboll.
It would be hard. So the franchise interviews all of these guys and then says, hey, maybe we can convince a couple of them to jump. Now I'm looking back at that, realizing that's probably more so the case than actual head coaching interviews. So Adam Schefter comes out with his list of finalists on Monday night and says, hey guys, just an FYI, I'm hearing these are the 4 finalists. And it's Grant Udinski, it is Brian Daboll, it is Joe Brady, and it's, what's his face? Davis Webb. And when that list comes out, the first thing, my gut reaction was, one of these things doesn't belong here, and one of the things, like, it sticks out like a sore thumb, and that's Joe Brady. Why is Joe Brady even in this conversation? He's interviewed with how many other teams and hasn't been given a job yet? Why is he still here at this finalist round? How did you sneak into this? Because I could think of 5 different names that I would have expected to see in that press release.
Did you see what I retweeted about Udinski? Pagula just found Brady easier to spell than Udinski. It kept auto-correcting to use the skis, so he chose Brady.
I mean, look at this. So then as I'm sitting there doing podcast prep on Tuesday night, or on Monday night, getting ready for this podcast, I see these tweets from Josina Anderson. Chris, if you want to throw them up there for the people. So I see this, And it immediately gets the wheels turning. And I send it off to Chris and I go, Chris, this is going to be a part of our conversation, good or bad. Josina Anderson, for those of you listening on audio, she says, based on all the things I'm hearing this evening, including league source opinions weighing in, I'll say this. Remember, Sean McVay was an offensive coordinator for the Commanders for 3 seasons before becoming the head coach of the Rams. Sometimes, Sometimes coaches need more time, and that's okay. In my opinion, it's better to discern things on the front end than on the back end and to resist any pressure, even when that may be self-applied.
Then she followed with, this tweet pertains to the Browns, and I guess you could also say the Bills.
And that's where it got the wheels turning. I was like, okay, she heard something. So in my head, that means Grant Udinski's out. And it probably means that Neil Schillhouse or whatever. Schillhouse. That probably means he's out too. And it probably means Nate Schillhouse is out for both the Browns and the Bills. And so again, I start digging into podcast prep and I say, okay, I'm going to put together an entertaining show talking about the head coaching search. And then this morning I wake up and find out that Nate Schillhouse basically said, no, I've got cold feet. I don't know if I want to go to the Browns. He wasn't going to get offered the Bills job. We'd already heard he's not a finalist. So it was like, oh no, what's happening here? You start going through there. And you realize the young guys very quickly realized they didn't have a shot, or that the team, maybe those interviews didn't go well. Like, that's what I'm thinking. Those interviews and through that process, maybe those guys realized, hey, at 30 years old with no play calling experience, it turns out NFL head coaching is a lot. It's not just knowing offense. It's not just eat, sleep, breathe football. It's not, hey, all the platitudes that were parked at Udinski's door that we heard about so much on Monday after it was announced that he was in the running for the gig. Everybody feels like bent over backwards to tell us how smart he was. But in reality, if you can't run a team at the age of 30 with no play calling experience, having not spent time, like think about Sean McDermott. Over the course of Sean McDermott's career, he spent 14 years, I think, between, Ron Rivera and Andy Reid, watching two of the more stable coaches in football learn how to navigate a locker room, how to handle problematic people, how to handle players with attitudes and egos, and how to remain neutral when James Cook is arguing a contract with the team and say, look, his problem's not with me. This is the business side of football. I'm not the business side. I'm the coach. My job is to love that guy and support him and be there for him when he's here. And when he gets here, we're going to party and it's going to be great. Like, you learn that by watching, and not having that background, I think really hurt these young kids in this coaching cycle that everybody kept talking about all offseason. It really did. And so I guess I take that and I go, okay, that makes sense. If you got to this place and decided that you didn't want a Udinski, you didn't want a Schillhouse, you didn't want some first timer with limited experience because you were worried about their ability to really keep this thing together, I can absolutely see a world where you exclude them from the process. But before I can even begin to digest the fact that Joe Brady's my new coach, I have a question, because if those of you who saw our original thumbnail for this podcast, it was literally entitled, Wait, Just Wait, with a picture of Clint Kubiak. And now we're here doing a completely different show. I feel like it's a simple question. Why? What is the cost? Not even why. What is the cost of 2 weeks in the process of hiring a head coach? What's 2 weeks? What's 2 weeks compared to 5 years? A 5-year engagement where you're tied to the hip with this person. You couldn't wait 2 weeks. I don't know. It makes the process feel somewhat flawed, doesn't it?
My thing with waiting 2 weeks, if you waited 2 weeks for Clint Kubiak just to interview him, let's just say every other job gets filled within the 2 weeks, and you're waiting to talk to Clint Kubiak, all of the coaches below the head coach are all going to be filled on all the teams. So you're essentially kind of getting the bottom of the barrel for your position coaches and coordinators if you wait the 2 weeks. Now,
hang on. Connor Shush just said something in the comments, and I had a whole diatribe keyed up for this podcast tonight, back when I thought we were talking about the coaching search. But he said Kim needs to divorce Terry and claim the Bills. Do you know that that's actually, like, it made me sad watching that press conference, if only because Kim was supposed to be the one. She was brought in to be the face of these franchises, both the hockey team, the football team. Terry was the guy writing the checks, and Kim Pegula was the first woman, like, owner, publicly facing owner of a football team. She's the one with the media training, the one out doing the speaking engagements. It was clear that it wasn't the 74-year-old man, but it was the 50-something-year-old woman who was being primed to be the face of the Buffalo Bills and was going to be the driving force behind how they were run. She was the president and CEO of Pegula Sports and Entertainment when they bought the two teams. And then 2022 happened, and her stroke and her just inability to come back from that. And I'm not going to pretend to know what that does to a person, but it's clear Terry pulled back from all of his operations. And yet here in this moment, he decided to insert himself into that press conference, knowing he doesn't speak well, knowing that this wasn't going to go well. Like, he was going to show up to an ambush. It's like, you're going to show up. Chris, that would be like you telling me, hey, Drew, come over. I've got 5 guys waiting in the basement to kick your ass. And me going, all right, I guess I'll go in there. Why? Because why not? I guess I have to. That's what Terry Pegula did, and it went about as well as it could have gone. And I just feel bad for everybody involved now. In retrospect, like, I was being petty, but I genuinely just feel sad for every person involved with that press conference. And I feel like the trajectory of this franchise was altered when Kim was stricken with her illness.
just wait till Thursday. If Terry's a part of that press conference,
it won't go well.
He's going to go.
I promise you, if they let
hold my beer from last Wednesday, I'm going to make it better.
But this is where he needs to not speak. You hired a president of football operations. Now get out of here. Leave. Drop it.
You want Gwelly? Was it Gwelly out there?
I want anybody.
Pete Gwelly and Brandon Bean.
The idea of Clint Kubiak getting away is what doesn't sit well with me, because this is a guy, for anybody who watched the NFC title game. I mean, oh my God, watching not even just that game, but multiple times throughout the year when they were playing on primetime, you watch them and they were just balanced and they were authoritative. They could air it out on you, but they could also run on you. And he had intricate plans, like two major takeaways from that NFC title game. One, the Seahawks do, to the chagrin of Bills fans, often utilize a screen game. But the contrast between the way that the Bills and Joe Brady do screens and the way that Clint Kubiak does them are night and day different. When the Bills do it, it's generally a bubble screen, or it's a long developing screen that's supposed to let blockers get downfield, and hopefully you get yards after the catch, like 5 to 9 yards at a time. When Kubiak was throwing a screen at least 3 times in that game, it's sudden. It's just, hey, I see one-on-one coverage on the end, and I know the safety's backed off. Guess what? It's a howitzer to the boundary, and now your boundary corner has to try to isolate that wide receiver in a phone booth. And if he's wrong, it could be a 10, 15, 20-yard gain. Maybe he gets an angle on a safety, and he's gone. It's chaos for a defense to try to deal with that quick of a developing play. Whereas the Bills is just so safe and predictable and stoppable. And that's why it causes so many problems. And there again, it's aggression, right? And that's also Kubiak's sense of aggression. You watch the way the Seahawks went out and ended that NFC title game. They did it backed up on their own 6-yard line. Now, this is a Bills team that they're undoing in multiple playoff games has been the fact that Josh has to leave the field with the lead and the defense gives it up over the last 3 minutes of clock. Kubiak comes out with the ball on their 6-yard line, knowing his quarterback is turnover prone, and goes, 4 intelligent passing plays that allowed them to still be aggressive, get chunk yardage, keep the D from flooding the box so they could keep running the ball and still getting 3-4 yards. And ultimately they flipped the field and burn 4 minutes of clock. Game over. That's how you win. That's how you win a Super Bowl. Right there. That drive.
So we played the Saints this year. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Saints early in the season. Was it week 4? Yeah, week 4, I think we played the Saints. Close game through and through. You know that they played the Seahawks the week before, and you know that it was 38-3 at halftime, Seattle. That's one of the things that I like about Kubiak is he's not playing down to his opponent's level.
No,
we're the better team.
I'll bury you.
I'm going to bury you. He did that with the Cardinals this year, the Redskins. I'm going to bury you. We're better than you. I'm going to bury you.
It's been one of the flaws of the Buffalo Bills for years, for decades, you can call it. Just playing down to competition. And here's a guy who is just always aggressive, but it's a controlled aggression that plays to the team's strengths. And that frustrates me. When you see that, and you go, wait a minute, I could have had a shot at that. And instead you hand me Joe Brady. Unnecessarily hand me Joe Brady. I mean, you couldn't even wait another week and a half to talk to the guy. It just seems bizarre. And it kind of underscores for me that there's a lack of neutrality in this process. And that might be the biggest insult to us as a fan base overall, right? Like, you think about the way this process and the coaching hire was done, I think it's insulting to me, to my intelligence, to you guys. Let's see. Joe Brady's going to call the offense again, but he doesn't know how to use, what was that? It jumped. He doesn't know how to use the wide receivers. He's got to get wide receivers, but also he has to be a coach who's willing to push the GM to get a wide receiver. You know, I saw someone in the comments earlier, and I apologize. I think it was Teddy Bandana said, Jackson Smith-Njigba has been one of the best wide receivers in football. So, you know, it's not apples to apples isn't fair. Okay. But also you have to be able to push a franchise to go spend a first-round pick on a guy like that. You have to be able to take a shot at something like that first before it can ever pan out for you.
Let me jump in here because I don't know if you heard our owner last week. He said Keon Coleman, that was who the coaching staff wanted. Guess who's our head coach? The coaching staff.
So where are these coaches, Terry? If it wasn't Joe Brady, let's just, I don't need a witch hunt. Just give me the name. I'll go to his house right now. It's a dog and pony show. And what I don't love is that everybody who was involved with this hire comes away with a certain amount of self-interest that I don't appreciate. I can't. Look at Bean. Brandon Bean gets to announce the hire of Joe Brady. Hey, Joe Brady. So from a field of candidates, and hey, there's one guy out there on the West Coast who's killing it with a star wide receiver, but also he's making guys named Jake Bobo useful. His name is Bobo. Do you know? I'm not even going to get into it, but he's making those guys useful and threatening and beating up on opposing teams with them. Meanwhile, Brandon Bean goes, this aggressive coach who's super talented, I don't want that guy in my building. I don't even want to talk to him. I don't even want the ability to talk to him. You know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of when Mike McCagnon was the GM for the Jets and he brought in Aaron Gase. Not because Adam Gase was the most qualified guy. He had just been fired by the Dolphins. But because he believed that Adam Gase was the guy out of that field of coaching candidates who wouldn't push back against him, who wouldn't have the gravitas and the pull to like make any power plays inside the building, who would, because he was just fired, have to shut up and just toe the line. And instead, surprise, in typical Jets fashion, Adam Gase hired in the winter of 2019. And then after the draft in 2019, they fired McCagnon and installed Adam Gase as interim GM. Now, that went terribly, but it's the idea that you mean to tell me there's a guy out there making this call who's allowed to have self-interest in it. Okay, you've already impacted the outcome. Josh Allen. In fact, I'll save that one for last. First of all, Terry Pagula. Terry's just in there in the building going, hey, I showed up here for my interview. Why are there urinals inside this conference room? And where the hell is everybody? And what's that smell? Like that's Terry Pagula. He's over there in the troughs trying to figure out where the meeting's going on.
I wanted to go to Tank Ninja in the comments because he says since they lost Chad Hall, the wide receiver room has regressed.
100%, because Sean McDermott alienated a good position coach. And we haven't had many of those over the years, which is why our draft picks don't develop. And then you have Josh Allen, who, when they said he was going to be involved, right? Hey, he's going to be involved. And everyone goes, well, I think that's a good idea. I want my quarterback to have say. On what grounds? You're a quarterback. You throw the football. Do you know what it is to run a football team? Not just a play caller, a CEO from the top down. I run this team and I run everything that has to do with the players and the way that the organization operates on game day. What qualification do you as a quarterback have to be involved in those conversations? Like, sure, I bet the Ravens floated some things by Lamar Jackson. Do I think that they went to Lamar Jackson and Lamar Jackson said, man, you know who really stuck out to me out of all these coaches you wanted to talk to? Jesse Minter, a defensive guy. Yeah, go get me a defensive coordinator head coach. That's what Lamar Jackson said. It's insulting to my intelligence to sit here and tell me that Josh Allen's involvement didn't color some of this, especially when you sit back and you go, wait a minute, somehow we got to a finalist group that involved, a guy as old as Josh, one of Josh's buddies, a former buddy of Josh's who he worked for a little while before, and a current guy already with a contract inside the building. What? But you don't want to talk to Clint Kubiak? You don't even want to have, even if you didn't hire him, you don't want to have a conversation. What? Because you're afraid someone's going to scoop Joe Brady? Oh, guys, Joe Brady, hot commodity. Watch out. You were so scared of losing out on Joe Brady that you couldn't wait a week and a half to see like I said, I think that this is where influence on decisions become a problem, right? Influence on decisions become a problem. Now, back when I thought I wouldn't be here talking about a new head coaching hire for the Buffalo Bills, I came in here prepared to make fun of a bunch of other teams' decision making this week. And now I feel like I can't say anything. And I'm just here scratching my head wondering how the hell we got here. But then you read things like this tweet I'm about to show you guys watching live from Andrew Filipponi from the Steelers beat reporter and former Buffalo guy. Unlike that Ross Tucker, who claims to be like he cosplays as a Buffalo guy, but he's really not. Andrew Filipponi is actually a former Buffalo guy. And he had this to say about the Steelers situation. And the fact that Rams defensive coordinator Chris Shula did not interview well, right? In his virtual interview, per sources, he bombed, quote unquote. His defense gave up 31 points to the Seahawks. If I could just say something, this is the problem with youth in coaching. The acumen required isn't just X's and O's, it's top-down knowledge. And when you take that and you look at what Pittsburgh is, let's talk about that for a second. Shula was a favorite of the Steelers this entire offseason. The entire offseason, Chris Shula was talked about as the next head coach, and they thought really highly of him. Fans talked about it. Reporters talked about it. But that doesn't mean anything until you actually get in the room with them and talk to them and find out what they know, what they don't know, what they don't understand, what they need the organization as a crutch for, what they'll be able to do for the organization that it can't currently do for itself. Also, franchise expectations matter, and also who you let get involved in these meetings plays a role. If you're going to tell me Chris Shula bombed, it's entirely possible that he did, but also what were the expectations coming into that meeting? That he was going to show up with the sage gravitas and coaching acumen more so than coordinator acumen that Tomlin had, that Cowher had, because that was never going to be reasonable. And also, who in the room, like who gets to sit there on that call and how does that influence things? And this is where I get afraid about Josh Allen's involvement in this. I want to set a scene for you. Like if we can do a screenplay, let me pour a little bourbon here as I talk about this. There's a young kid with a bunch of fresh ideas. Yeah, I understand defense. I understand players. I think I have some unorthodox pressure packages that are really disruptive in the NFL. And I think I could be a good head coach. Everyone keeps telling me that. I'm 39 years old. I think I'm close to ready. No, I don't have a ton of experience, but I think I'm there. On the other side of that virtual call is a 73-year-old Art Rooney. He runs a franchise with a history of stability at the head coach. What, Chris, they're only on like their 5th coach in franchise history?
4. Well,
4?
Well, I'm going to say since you and I have been alive, they are on. It was when we were born, it was Chuck Knox. Then they went to Cowher, Tomlin, and now they're on Mike McCarthy.
So now this guy who shows up to this call is the end. He's old. He's 74. He's the antithesis of progress and forward thinking when it comes to football culture. It's the equivalent of you trying to tell your grandfather about TikTok. That's what we're talking about. It's you trying to tell your grandparents about TikTok. And understand how that conversation goes. So, of course, you can't communicate at the level that guy thinks you can. And also, they kind of hit the nail on the head that this is the problem with what the Steelers did when they go out, hire blatant retread Mike McCarthy, and then Rooney gets quoted as saying 2 really damning things. 1, he understands our culture here. Well, yeah, there's no way a 39-year-old who just took up play calling can understand how to build like team culture building. No. Also, you're the Steelers. You're a joke. You've perennially been excused from the playoffs year after year after year. That's your culture. You don't realize that, but that's your culture. And then he said that a confidant texted him saying, it's not every day you get to hire a head coach with Mike McCarthy's record of success. What, like the other 374 days when he didn't have a fucking job? Mike McCarthy was unemployed for over a year. You had all of the time in the world to hire him. It's hilarious the things that football guys will say. But because Art Rooney was allowed to be involved in the process, he might have just cost the Steelers their best shot at a forward-thinking defensive mind who could have helped their franchise. And that's why the Allen involvement bothers me. Like, we just end up with Allen and friends. Oh, Josh Allen's like, well, I think this guy's cool and he's fun. And I know Daboll and there's Joe Brady. And Pagula's like, well, I'm already paying Joe Brady, so it would be really helpful if I didn't have to pay him more. I could just kind of roll it into a new contract. And Brandon Beane's going, Joe Brady's just lucky to still have a job. So I could do a lot worse. And also, he'll never buck the system. He's one of our guys. He's a homegrown thing, right? Like, we'll never know if Josh Allen's inclusion in this process is the thing that stopped them from pursuing a Kubiak. Because if Josh Allen had been like, hey, I want the best offensive mind I could possibly get, there's no way they don't at least wait to take an interview. Instead, it's a GM going, and now again, this is me projecting because I have a very dim view of Brandon Beane right now. And I could see a guy in his position going, well, I don't want to bring anyone in here who could outflank me at some point, who could criticize my draft picks and go, hey, look, I was able to do all kinds of things with the Jackson Smith and Jigba, but Brandon Beane can't seem to find one. He can't seem to get me talent at this position. Chris, doesn't it seem different? And those of you in the comments, I want to hear you. When would it sound different if next year, the 2027 draft, we're lining up and it's Joe Brady going to the podium going, hey guys, we kind of need some more wide receiver help. You know, we've been talking about it for a while, but we kind of need it. Or if it's Clint Kubiak at the microphone going, I don't have the wide receivers I need to do what I did in Seattle. Which do you think would be more damning for our GM? Chris, any thoughts?
I mean, I feel like this Joe Brady hire keeps it in structure. He's not going to be making what McDermott made, and he's going to be in line. Like, Beane will have say over Brady, and I think we're going to start seeing drafts be completely on Brandon Beane.
I see someone, again, my eyes are failing me, but I see, is it Torrey or
Torrey 71?
Torrey 71. Why are you forgetting Brady instrumental in Allen MVP? Trust me, I'm going to get there. Oh, we're taking a walk in the park, buddy. That's what we do here on this podcast. I bloviate, I grandstand, I get all my emotions out because this is cathartic for me. It's cathartic to talk through the process. I am going to get to the point where we actually talk about some of the upside for Joe Brady. If there is some to be found, we will discuss it. I'm going to give it its due. But I want to talk about why I'm upset and why everyone's upset and why the internet is overflowing with angsty tweets in case anybody doesn't understand. It's happening because this process and how we arrived at this feels awkward. It feels gross. The same way the dismissal and then the announcement of the dismissal and then the inevitable thank you and the weird, awkward statement. It just seems like everything the Bills do lately is half-assed, or at least awkward enough that it doesn't make you feel good about it. Because when you hire someone that you feel strongly about, it should be a swift and celebrated thing. And it shouldn't resonate this way with an entire population of people. And it's because the process itself led you to believe that they were going to end up in one place, and then they ended up somewhere completely different, and you feel hoodwinked. You feel like they stole an opportunity from you. At least that's how I feel. That's how I feel. But we'll never know how much Brandon Beane's job security mattered. We'll never know how much Josh Allen's intent to be a part of this thing mattered. I just know that we ended up here because all three of those people, Terry, Brandon, and Josh, got together and came up with this as what the next iteration of the Buffalo Bills should look like. Transparency in this process will forever be an absolute mystery. Like, in a leak designed to take pressure off the organization, Josh Allen, like, they claim Josh Allen wasn't that involved. Like, there's lies, there's damn lies, and then there's that statement right there. So, I don't know. I know that it doesn't feel good, but again, punching down always feels fun. And you know who feels worse than us right now, Chris? There are always people who feel worse than us. And this week, it's the Cleveland Browns. Go ahead and hit me with that audio. Come on, baby. Give it to me. I need it today. Come on. Producer of the year, Chris Kruger. Come on.
You caught me when I was typing. I gotta go to the, where is it?
Yeah, Chris, guys, we have a production complete breakdown here. This is what I get.
Fuck you both. Your lives are so fucking pathetic. I ran a charity $15K to raise awareness for it, you fucking losers.
The Cleveland Browns, or as I like to call them, Old Reliable. Because when I feel bad about myself, I go to the Cleveland Browns and I just look at them and I go, how are you all still alive? Never mind, how are you all still fans? How are you all still alive? That's what the Cleveland Browns do to people. And it sounds an awful lot like that's what's happening now. The Bills' coaching process seems like it's rife for ridicule. Rightfully so. You could punch down about a lot of things that I just outlined that were wrong with the way that the Bills went about this. But I'll tell you what, you know what really sucks? The Bills didn't make anybody do personality tests. We didn't make any of our coaching candidates write essays. Chris, when's the last time you as an adult wrote 800 words about a given topic?
I should actually spend a lot of tomorrow developing the tweet video that we put out for the Browns hiring a head coach. And that's from A Christmas Story, when the teacher gives Ralphie a A++++ on his Red Ryder rifle essay. We should have that ready to go for when the Browns hire, just so the teacher writing on the A++, his essay was amazing. Who is forcing? Did you have to write an essay for your job?
You know
I didn't have to write an essay.
Do you want to hear a hilarious story about my job?
Yeah.
I got a
anyone here. How about anyone before you get there? Anyone in the comments? Let us know if you have had to write an essay for your job.
What's the dumbest thing someone asked you to do in order to get a job? I want to hear it, because I'll tell you mine. It's my current employer, so if you're listening, close your ears. Essentially what happened was I was found by a recruiter who had the balls to email me at my current job, like at the job I had. And I go, wow, you're wild. You emailed me at work to tell me about another job opportunity. You're out of your damn mind. But I talked to him and he tells me about this job and he goes, okay, you got to go in for an interview. And I go, okay, cool. I'll show up for an interview. And I show up, I did a phoner. That's what it was. I showed up for a phoner. And then after the phone interview, I do a WebEx. And it's like, okay, cool, WebEx. Cool, we do this. And then I go about my business. And I go, I nailed that. I know I did. I feel good about this job. And then he goes, hey, they want to bring you in for an in-person interview. I'm like, all right, 3rd round. Here we go. I'm in, baby. I'm in like Flynn. And he tells me this on a Monday. The interview is on a Wednesday. Chris, at 2:45 p.m. that Tuesday, do you know I get an email from him that goes, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, you have to create a 25-minute PowerPoint presentation about your career and what you do, like what you bring to the table in the role. 2:45 p.m. the day before the job interview.
This is where you just email back the guy, the recruiter, a picture of yourself in the cutoff sleeves suit. This is what I bring to the table.
This is what I bring to the table, baby. The gun show. No, you know what I did? So I spent less than 2 hours putting together one of the worst PowerPoints I've ever created. And I walked into that room, I threw the PowerPoint on, and I literally said to everyone in attendance, I go, guys, this is a dog and pony show. Let me tell you why you want me as an employee. Do you know they hired me? Because I was like, this PowerPoint thing is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Allow me to help you by just telling you it's stupid and then telling you why you'd be dumb to let me walk out of here without giving me that job.
There's some good ones in the comments, but when I was getting hired this summer at my current job, and I'll put the company on blast, Eaton in Orchard, yes. Eaton in Orchard Park. I did a phone interview, and it was from they outsourced that. So like I'm on the phone with this woman, and she's like, now, can you tell us when you worked at Sumitomo Rubber? Are you looking at my resume? There's dates on there. And then it was like, can you tell me where you worked at this other company? If you look right below Sumitomo Rubber, it says the next job. That's how resumes work. Did you just call me to confirm my own resume? I don't want to work here. I still get emails from Eaton like, you should apply for this job. I won't. Fuck your company.
So here we go. Tory 71. NFL has cemented its entertainment, not sport, with the Sanders Pro Bowl nonsense. Oh, buddy. So listen. We got derailed here. We were here making fun of the Cleveland Browns. So the Cleveland Browns have decided that they need to put everybody through this process. Their process, right? It's great. We have an analytical process by which here I am complaining about the Bills process where we ended up with Joe Brady. Admittedly, I've spent 40 minutes complaining about the process. Then look at the Browns. You have to take a personality test. Then you have to write an essay. Now you have to do a PowerPoint presentation that we won't tell you about until the day before. And then, by the way, you also have to talk to the owner. Now, we talked about being careful about who you let into these interviews and how they might color or influence the outcome of your coaching hire. Well, the Cleveland Browns took that to a new level. It started when Shieldhouse said, Shieldhouse doesn't matter. He's a shithouse as far as I'm concerned. He'll never be a Bills coach. I don't care. He pulled out last minute. He interviewed with them. He only had 2 offers, and he pulled out of one of them and was like, I don't want to be with the Browns. And then you saw Grant Udinski do it, and then you go, wait a minute, all of these other coaches also kind of excluded themselves from the Browns. What the hell's going on here? And then it leaked that what was happening was the owner of the Browns, they were not only putting them through this analytical process, but the owner of the Browns, Jimmy Haslam, because Jimmy Haslam makes the best decisions in football, was sitting down with these people basically telling them, look, we want you to be our head coach potentially. Also, I love me. What's that defensive coordinator's name?
Chris Shula?
No, the Browns coordinator.
Oh, Jim Schwartz.
They're like, we love Jim Schwartz. So if you take this job, we're going to force you to work with Jim Schwartz. And they were like, well, wait a minute. Why don't you just hire Jim Schwartz then? And he was like, whoa, we don't want to hire Jim Schwartz. You know what it sounded like? He was Mr. Tarkanian from the Saturday Night Live episode. Where he's
Oh, yeah,
in
that
the-
sketch with Pierce
That's
Brosnan.
how well the Pierce Brosnan. Guys, for those of you who are too young to know this reference, go Google Mr. Tarkanian Saturday Night Live and watch the Pierce Brosnan. Like, that interview is what I imagine these Browns candidates went through.
Cons, me kicking you until there's blood in your stool.
He's like, normally, and then he goes, I don't think I want to work for your terrible company. And he goes, well, normally I would whip you in the scrotum with a car antenna for talking back to me like that, but you don't work for me. So that's what it is to interview with the Browns, which led to this clip from who on the radio, Chris?
Oh, I don't know. It's ESPN.
ESPN Radio's Monday Morning Drive from the Browns radio network. Here we go.
Their infatuation with analytics, where has it gotten them? You suck. You suck. Do you need me to tell you this? Or can you just look at your record and your roster? You suck. The analytics got you one of the worst trades of all time. The analytics have produced the worst coaching candidates I've ever seen in Hugh Jackson and Freddie Kitchens. And you're going back at it? What is wrong with these people?
Can you imagine WGR ever talking about Terry Pagula like that? No.
Whoever Rizzo from their, I had to make sure we source it properly. Riz from ESPN Cleveland, and I can't see the radio dial in the clip.
The one thing that frustrates me the most about Joe Brady, before I go on to talking about the actual hire and the man and what he might bring to the table and how we move forward from this, is the idea that, one, there was no transparency, two, the analytics used were stupid. But what's most frustrating is that this type of thing right here is why I exist. It's why podcasts exist. It's why guys like me are allowed to slam booze behind a microphone and people show up and watch it. You download it, you listen to it. Do you want to know why? Because there is nobody in the Buffalo market on radio willing to talk like this on air. Nobody is willing to go out and do what Rizzo and his radio host over there did on Monday morning when they were talking about the. You're going to invoke Freddie Kitchens? That's a curse.
Nate Geary will do that, but he has to come here to do it.
He has to come here to do it.
Nate Geary can't do it live on air.
Radio employees have to leave the bastion of WGR and come down here to the Rockpile Report studio in order to have honest conversation about what's going on with the football team. This is why podcasting exists. It's not just catharsis for me and Chris to get, I don't know, slug whiskey and rant about things that frustrate us. It's also being able to speak a little bit of truth to power. Being able to say, look, you guys had a flawed process that led you here. And if I could take it a step further, Terry Pagula, how many more poor choices can this man be a part of? It's crazy to me. Someone needs it. Thank God that Brandon Beane has the president of operations title, I guess, because at least he's isolated from one more bad choice. How many more, Chris? Look at the hockey operation. Bad decision, compounded by bad decision that compounds poor decisions. What's he doing now on the football side? When he bought the team, he hired Rex Ryan, and that cascaded into bad choices. They almost gave this job to 3 different people. And then at the last minute, Sean McDermott swooped in and took the job. And he took us from obscurity to stardom. And now you not only unceremoniously fire the man, which I don't disagree with. I don't disagree with the firing. But you don't have a sound process in place. And now what you've done is you committed a half measure of keeping the GM. Instead of bringing in a GM who could bring in a coach where once, just like Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott were aligned in vision and say, hey, we're going to build this team over the next 5 years our way, or we're going to do this our way. Nope. What you did was you kept half of them. You kept half of them around, And then that decision got you to this place where Brandon Beane's allowed to put some influence on the decision and go, well, I don't want a strong candidate. I don't want a Kubiak who could get me fired here too, because he's proven to be really capable. And I don't have the best track record when it comes to sourcing wide receivers. So if he gets pissed that he doesn't have any wide receiver talent, it's my ass on the hot seat. I don't want that. Instead, I want Joe Brady, the guy who just believes in everybody eats. Oh, well, if my GM will give me dog shit at wide receiver, I'll just make a slogan called "Everybody Eats" and make the public accept that. That's where we live. Whether you want to accept it or not, that's where we live. And that's why this hire bothered me so much. It was just self-interest all the way down from everybody involved. Terry doesn't have to pay more people. You have Brandon protecting himself. You have Josh getting to keep people who won't criticize him or coach him too hard or coach him differently. It's just all problematic. And the process will always bother me. The way that we went about finding the last head coach who will take the mantle for what's left of the Buffalo Bills Super Bowl window. That's it. We've reached the end of Josh Allen's Super Bowl window, and they made a decision based on self-interest. It's going to impact all of our collective future. This is why you need podcasting, because nobody at WGR is going to have that conversation. They'll dance around it. They'll bring on Ross Tucker. Chris, I literally was driving here and they were like, we're going to talk to Ross Tucker in a little bit. No, you won't. Not as long as I'm listening. That dude can kick rocks, suck an egg. Is that still a thing people say? Guys in the chat, does anybody say suck an egg?
Oh, I asked the people in the chat what media member did they want in here sitting next to you, and there were 2 votes for Sal, to have you and Sal Capaccio.
Can you imagine Sal sitting here next to me while I'm having this conversation? I feel like he wouldn't be able to speak. He doesn't want to Jerry Sullivan himself.
I mean,
he's got to know what to say that might get me fired.
I feel like there's a lot of people in the. I mean, we've had Matt Perino on, but it's been years. I'm sure
he got mad at you because you put him on air chewing a roast beef sandwich.
Matt and I have no issue because he lives behind one of Jessica's best friends, and I see him all the time at birthday parties.
That's hilarious.
Matt Perino and I have no issues.
No, you just have stupid hair together.
I mean, you know what? How about this?
So Jimmy Key, that's pay-per-view. Drew/Sale.
No, like you get a John Scott, a Matt Beauvais, anybody that is in that media room, you know, who would be ideal to sit next to Drew and have a conversation? I have had this conversation with John Scott before because I'm like, well, yeah, it's like I introduced myself to John Scott when I met him, and I'm like, oh, I produce this podcast, and we have a lot of, you know, we drink bourbon while we do it, and he's like, oh, I like bourbon. I could see John Scott being a gracious guest here in the studio.
JDark 488, Dan Mitchell. I would love to have Dan Mitchell down here. The funny thing is, you realize how short he is. He's sitting next to me. He's like Tom Cruise. He uses convenient camera angles. Hide the fact that he's like 5'6". It's all right though. There's nothing wrong with short people.
There's somebody said Jerry Sullivan reference, Dan Fates, Mike Catalana. I think are they all Rochester?
How about this? Ralph Wilson Sr. goes Jackie Walker. I bet she'd drink Drew under that table. I love Jackie Walker. What a pull. Ralph Wilson Sr. What a pull. All right. So we're into a podcast about me bloviating about how upset I am about the fact that the Bills.
This is where we get to the positive
process sucked. Well, I want to talk about this Jordan Schultz tweet that came out today. Again, these are all like, can we talk about what media is now? If you're the radio station, you're kind of like, I don't want to say it's a
symbiote. Go meet Jordan Schultz at a Starbucks in Indianapolis.
Well, I was going to say, who are the people who are fighting? First of all,
I believe anyone in the chat can correct me, but it's Ian Rappaport and Jordan Schultz. Jordan Schultz is not tied to a network.
And so Ian Rappaport just tried to fight him at a Starbucks?
Yeah, over something I think Jordan reported, and Rapport didn't give proper credit.
Podcast beef is one of the stupidest things. Remember when I said I was going to put Ryan, like I warned you in the truck the first time we ever met the Rock Sports guys, and I was like, Chris?
Yeah, you wanted to fight.
I wanted to fight Ryan Lasel. Ryan Lasel is one of those guys who he's your friend, and yet you still sometimes want to fight him just because he's your friend. You like that guy. You have a vested interest in his life being positive and being good, and yet you still sometimes want to put the boots to him. That's Ryan Lasel.
Jay Clark in the comments said Z-Bot from Buffalo Fanatics and Drew would be fighting for air, talking over each other. You can hear that twice a season on this show when Drew and Alf are Miami Dolphins
Bloviators,
guests.
son.
Yes.
You got to be a bloviator. You have to be. You got to be able to take up all the space. I dominate this. That's not how this works, right? Podcasting is just dudes hanging out, having conversations.
Doug in the comments said the Bills are hiring Steven Seagal as the OC.
The Rain Man. What is that? Wasn't that a movie? He's above the law. Steven Seagal is one of those actors who literally has never had to change his facial expression or acting style. He just keeps doing different roles as the same guy.
The only thing I know,
he's always the quiet badass. I was a quiet cook on a ship and I beat a bunch of people up. Oh, I'm a quiet guy on a train and I kicked a bunch of people in the head. Oh wait, I'm a quiet soldier who's retired. Now I make this face a lot, and it's just this over and over and over again.
Under Siege.
He's done 150 B movies no one even knows about. Yeah, you know what's even crazier? Nick Cage owns a movie theater out in New Mexico where he runs his own B movies. He's made like 40 of them that no one knows about. It's awesome. Oh, God. All right. Tommy from Mafia Sports Report can rant like no other. Listen, I'm not talking about ranting. What I'm talking about is, can you come in here? Can we hold court? And can we talk? Because you can never do this on terrestrial radio. Tomorrow, like even the radio guys struggled today, keeping it in. And I give them credit for criticizing where criticism is due. Now, Jordan Schultz, who did fight Ian Rappaport, and podcast beef is real, so there are podcasters who do sometimes beef on social media, but they'll never actually say anything to your face. Like Dave Myers once, when he was like, you guys should delete this. Shut up, Dave Myers.
Yeah, we don't delete anything.
Shut up, dork. What are you talking about? Jordan Schultz tweeted this, which is obviously a press release from the team. It says what the Bills liked about Joe Brady and the main reasons they hired him, according to sources, quote unquote. The CEO portion of the interview stood out the most. His vision for how everything would be structured from head coach seat was viewed as a home run. He also nailed the importance of, alignment between coaching and player personnel. Now, I want to ask you a question. Do you know who buys the most expensive alarm system? Do you know?
No.
The person who pays for the most expensive alarm system.
Elon Musk.
No, it's a guy who just got robbed. It's a guy whose house just got broken into. Those are the people who go out and spend a fortune on home security. The Buffalo Bills, what they've done here, I read that, and the first thought I have is, well, yeah, he gave you a very different view of how he would handle staff, how he would handle player personnel decisions, how he would handle development, and how he would say, look, I'm going to let Chad Hall do Chad Hall's job. I'm not going to try to micromanage him. Why? Because I'm Sean McDermott. What the fuck do I know about coaching wide receivers? I'm going to allow my offensive line coach to have autonomy. I'm going to allow my offensive coordinator. Now, they've already said Joe Brady will call plays, which is interesting.
See, that's the thing with it. When you see the CE, he nailed the, I put this in the comments earlier, he nailed the CEO portion of it. So for me reading that, I'm like, okay, so they want him to be the CEO on the field, so he's obviously going to
defer to a coordinator.
To defer to the coordinator, whoever that may be, for calling plays.
But then someone in the comments tonight was like,
Mike Garafolo reported, I forget who had it in the comments earlier, we had a lot of comments of he's calling plays, and I had asked for a legit source, and somebody got back to me with Mike Garafolo from NFL Network reported he's calling plays, and like throughout the day, I would say this: the hire is kind of growing on me, but it won't be officially grown on me until I see them play in September. If I'm seeing 9,000 different types of screen passes run on the field, if not,
I already saw the tweets.
Then I'll know. Oh, we're really seeing what Brady can do as a offensive play caller.
Jeremy, oh no, what's happening? Fitz said he called Bean to understand the Joe Brady hire. I had to call him and be like, "What are you doing?" Look,
I mean, in the comments, Casey in the comments up there at the top, he smoked weed with Nick Cage on a movie set. That's pretty cool.
Hell yeah. No, so my friend lived in this little New Mexico town, and
Crotch Rocket?
Neil. And there was a movie theater in the town, and he goes, it was weird because there was always like 3 Nicolas Cage movies, but never movies I'd ever heard of. Turns out Nicolas Cage owned the movie theater and would just force them to play his B-roll like movies, his like direct to DVD films that he was recording just to try to unbankrupt himself. And they would air them at that theater. So he's like, do you have any idea? He's like, there was a bar in there. I would go get beers and then get like a nacho platter and take it into a terrible Nick Cage movie. I just enjoy it for all the chaos that it was. If I'm trying to be an optimist about Joe Brady, if I'm trying to find a silver lining here, let's talk about it. I do think you could have done worse. I honestly believe that hiring any one of these young kids with no experience and giving them the keys to a Ferrari, it would have gone poorly. If I'm going to try to defend it, I'm going to say that the offense, as maddening as it was sometimes under Joe Brady, which like today I had a tweet that took off and I was like, who's responsible? Like the predictability of this. Oh, I guess that was also Sean McDermott's fault. The fact that there was defensive players after multiple games, the Falcons loss, the Texans loss, the Eagles loss, where they go, oh yeah, if you just do some film study, you see what the Bills are doing. And then when you go into the game, they don't even try to disguise it. They know you've seen the film. They're just so arrogant. They think they can execute it. And so we shut it the fuck down. And that's how the Eagles got us to score no points before halfway through the fourth quarter. It's embarrassing that you get to that point as a coordinator. And yet now that coordinator is my head coach. I'm sorry, but I feel like I'm entitled to feel a certain kind of way about that. But at the same time, we don't know what other factors were playing out behind the scenes and what he was being told. It very much seems like this whole hire was painted as it's all Sean McDermott's fault. Everything that went wrong is all Sean McDermott. If we keep the band together, we can make this thing work. Also, fuck Bobby Babbage. Also, fuck that guy, because that defense was awful, and then Sean had to take it away from him. And have you noticed there's been nary a word about Bobby Babbage? Well, yeah, nary a whisper. No one's saying anything.
The report is, hasn't happened yet, but the report is Jim Leonard from the Broncos, former Buffalo Bill. He's in line leading candidate for the defensive coordinator job.
So let's talk through this. Here's the things that I like about the hire. If I have to find a silver lining, as maddening as the thing was, a league rushing title winner, like rushing title winner in a Bills uniform. Do you know how rare that is? No one's done it since OJ. The best rushing season since Orenthal James Simpson happened under Joe Brady. Also, his quarterback had an MVP season. And then he had multiple years overseeing a top 5 scoring offense. With no Stephon Diggs, with no real threats at wide receiver, I'm willing to believe, after having the knee-jerk reaction, hey, this all is terrible and this is all stupid and the process was lame. Once it wore off and I got to think about it, The thing I think about Joe Brady is that Joe Brady showed up. Brian Daboll didn't get, like, we had a good offense. You know, we talked about it during our pre-record when we talked. So breaking down the fourth wall and kind of a teaser, the show we're going to release later this week, we talked about how unsustainable the success of all these upstart AFC teams who made playoff runs this year is comparative to what the Bills have on deck. So with that in mind, you take a look at everything that went wrong for the Bills in 2025, and it's still better than what most people have. And then you look at Joe Brady and go, wait a minute, Joe Brady's done a lot, and he hasn't been given a lot to work with. One of our biggest complaints has been, hey, you invest all your draft capital in the defense and you let the offense languish. The biggest move Brandon Beane ever made was investing in Stephon Diggs. And then you decided that was enough. We don't need to invest anymore in here. We're going to let that go. You should be able to win with this. And Brian Daboll did to the best of his ability. And then he got a head coaching job and he bailed out of here. And then Ken Dorsey came, and Ken Dorsey got fired. Ken Dorsey got fired even though the offense was still in the upper half of the NFL. And by the time that season ended, we were still a top 10 offense. And then Joe Brady, when he took over, said, screw it, we're going to run the ball. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to protect Josh Allen. And the result was an MVP season. If there's anything that should matter, how many other candidates out there on the course had those credentials? Chris, was there a single coaching candidate in this cycle who can say, I was instrumental in producing an MVP quarterback and a league leading rusher? Anybody? No.
Brady was here. Brady made Allen an MVP.
So it's the idea that we as fans look at him and go, I want offensive acumen and I want things and blah, 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 blah. And then they're like, okay, fine. You want offensive acumen? Here's a guy who's done a lot of crazy things with a lot of really talented people. Here you go. He's still here and you're still going to have that. And we all cross our arms and go, I wanted that, but I don't like the way you did it. That makes us sound like petulant children, doesn't it? Okay. So we've established that. There's no argument. Kubiak was never coming here, Jeremy Rogers. Maybe we'll never know. And someday, 20 years from now, when he's the Raiders head coach and the Raiders have won a Super Bowl and we haven't, it'll eat me alive at night. But for now, we're having fun. We're joking on a podcast. Joe Brady might have been the most accomplished guy available on the market. And that's not to slight anybody else. It's just none of those other guys, the Udinskis, the Shieldhouses, who else? The Kubiaks. Can Kubiak say that he developed a MVP quarterback? Can he say that, hey, I had a running back the following year after my quarterback was having a bad year? My running back was a league rushing title winner.
No, but Kubiak can say, I produced my quarterback 348 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers when he is known for his turnovers in a title game.
And this is where it's like, okay, if we're, but already you're trying to put him on that perspective and he's a coordinator. Do we know that he could run the rest of the team as well? So I guess it's just all of these things that Joe Brady's done here as a Buffalo Bills coach. I'm willing to give him a little bit of a pass. A little bit, not a ton. And I guarantee you it's going to be Chris, do you think the reception when they open up on opening day, people will be happy in the new stadium?
Sunday Night Football.
It's a new stadium. It's Sunday Night Football because we're a new stadium and it's going to be phenomenal. And they're going to get in everybody's ass with, oh, the Buffalo, look at the energy in this crowd. Yeah, it's energy in the crowd because it's a new building and because it's the spirit of what this thing is. We're trying to embrace something new. It has nothing to do with the coaching hire. I don't think the coaching hire would ever play a role in that. But at the same time, are you as excited as you would have been with Kubiak?
No, because like, regardless of, Brady, here's the disconnect with why everybody hates this move. Brady is still seemed, he's in the category of he's a McDermott guy.
That's fair.
So we didn't you get rid of McDermott, but you kept the general manager. You promoted the OC. So you just got rid of one. McDermott was that big of a problem of why we couldn't get over the hump that he's the only one that's going to get removed. Now, we haven't seen, who knows what Joe Brady does with on the defensive side of the ball with coordinators and whatnot. It's already, said it before. Jim Leonard is most likely coming here, allegedly. But this is the thing. You were in a position to overturn everything, and that's what the fan base wanted.
The fan base wanted new, and what you gave us was retread. Now, I want to put that on pause for a second. Jim Leonard, you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I think that could be huge for this team. We're going to talk about it in upcoming podcasts, especially if we land him.
Yeah, Ralph Wilson Sr. already put it in the comments, which it's a totally different topic for a different podcast with I don't know, and Anthony Prohaska about the type of defense he runs.
Well, let me tell you, I already know, Chris, because this is why me and Anthony love each other. Anthony goes, "You get hammered back here, but you do know football." I go, "Of course I do." That's why I can tell you that traditionally, Jim Leonard has run a 3-4 defense. But the mixed nature of defense now, I'm not concerned about that. Base defense doesn't matter anymore in the NFL. The 2025 Bills played 37.5%, right? 37.5% of their snaps in 2-by-2 formation, which means 2 outside corners, 2 split field safeties. There you go. That's what your base defense in 4-3 is. Now, 39% of their snaps were in nickel formation of some variety, whether it was hey, I'm going to swap out a linebacker for a cornerback or a defensive back. I'm going to play some variety of 3-by-1, and that's it. The Bills live and die by that. It's in there. It's baked into what they are, and it's also what the NFL is. It's what the NFL has become. Nobody plays as much 22 and 12 personnel as Buffalo does, or at least did this year. And even more do it when they know you suck at tackling. So if you clean these things up, you don't need to worry about 3-4 defense or what he does, what he doesn't run. Jim Leonard has proven to be a quality defensive coordinator. And if the Bills can steal him, that's a solid get. I can't wait to break it down with somebody much smarter about this stuff than me. But to get back to a point of yours, you're talking about game day. You're talking about game day. We're here talking about what this thing looks like, it feels like. Do you know we're going into free agency and then the draft and then a training camp? Now, what I will say is, having had front row seats to a Sean McDermott training camp, nobody pushed his players harder than Sean McDermott. Nobody. Sean McDermott, my story that I would, in fact, you know what? I'm going to save it so that when Sal Capaccio is sitting across from me, I can talk about it, because me and him experienced that together. And he's a wonderful human being for taking care of me in that moment and kind of directing me where to stand and be like, hey, look at that. It's like you're whale watching and you finally see one and somebody else is nice enough to go, hey, look, that's what you should be looking for. It was one of the coolest experiences of my entire life. Sal Capaccio is a gem. What I'll say is that for everybody mad about continuity, myself included, I started today furious about the decision to keep this guy. What does continuity get you? Where do we get to with continuity? I don't know. Division rounds. Division rounds consistently, because our offense just beats the brakes off everybody for years. If the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen meet you in the divisional round or the wild card round, you're going to get howitzered with an offense that's unpredictable And also, guys are going to step up. People are going to make plays. Josh Allen's going to run on you. You get like the 40. Chris, think back to the Steelers game. When everyone's like, oh, look at this, the rushing performance Josh Allen put up against the Jaguars. Think about the one he had against the Steelers. Like a 55-yard touchdown run in that game. Nobody touched him. This team needs some sort of continuity. And if it's going to happen there on offense, then I'm willing to admit that I'm splitting hairs. If I'm yelling about how I wanted something new and something fresh, but also something new and fresh probably doesn't produce the same results I'm used to. Would you agree with that? Udinski probably isn't going to turn one of our guys into a award winner at the end of the season, right?
You know what my issue was with like a Udinski or a Davis Webb? Because both of those guys are less than 5 years in the field of coaching. A little bit of a different story with Davis Webb because he played the game with the Giants, Jets, Bills, and maybe somebody else. If you would have gone Udinski or Webb, I would have questioned, well, what's their black book look like for NFL staffs? Who can they call? They've been in the league for 5 years or less. They've been on, one, maybe two different teams. Who do they know who can be OC, DC, your position coaches? And then does Brandon Beane kind of influence that, and Brandon Beane gets his fingerprints on this coaching staff even more?
You're not wrong. I respect your opinion, but also there's a comment in the comment section that just grabbed my attention. McKee 9999. Bachelor Josh was our best chance. Domesticated Josh is headed downwards. Buddy, I don't know if you've ever heard of dad strength. I don't think you understand. As a guy, and this is kind of what we'll close the show on. As a guy, I will tell you that when things get tight, funny story, I almost drowned in Keuka Lake a few years ago.
Is that Potter's?
Potter's bachelor party. I almost drowned at Keuka Lake. And I swam out. It was a windy day. I saw small whitecaps on the water. It was a hot day. I knew it was windy. I knew there was a current in the lake, but I went out there anyway. So I'm swimming about halfway out, and I'm looking back. I'm doing the drunken backstroke. I'm smoking a pork butt on the beach. I'm running the grill. I'm trying to feed all my idiot friends. They're all boozed up. They're so drunk they can't figure out how to launch the rowboat to come save me, ironically enough. And I backstroke out into the middle of the lake because I'm looking at this gorgeous property line with all these rental properties. And I'm like, or some of them are just cottages and vacation homes. And I'm like, God, this is so peaceful. And then I realize I'm 7 houses down. I go, wait a minute, I should probably turn against the tide. And I start swimming. And I swim and I swim and I swim and I swim and I swim. Now, for those of you who don't know, I was lifeguard certified by the Boy Scouts of America. I did in order to do that, you have to do a 3-mile swim and then
Yeah, and you swam from Puerto Rico to the United States.
Damn it. So here I am, just thrashing water. And I look up and I've made no progress because the water is pushing that hard back against me. I underestimated, and not only is there a tide, but there's an undertow. And so I'm out there on the water. I'm literally I've always been a strong swimmer, and not to make this sound bad, but I've always just not understood when they're like, well, so-and-so, he went out in the lake and he drowned. And I've never understood the circumstances where that happens until that moment. And in that moment, the only thing that went through my head was my wife blow drying her hair in her bathrobe and my son sitting in a high chair eating cereal. And I can tell you, my friends watched me churn about a 1/4 mile of water upstream, undertow, and current be damned. And I swam back to that dock. My legs were like a newborn baby deer. I just lay there for about a half hour. I couldn't get up, but I made it. Dad strength does something to you. So for anybody who's worried about, oh, Josh Allen, now he has a kid and he has a family, he's going to take time off. I'll tell you what, man, it might save your life. having that energy, sometimes it's the thing that saves your life. Think about reckless Josh Allen. Think about the way that I coined the phrase, Josh Allen cares more about winning than he cares about walking tomorrow. Well, if he changes his mind and decides, hey, guess what? I'm living to fight another day, but I want to fight every day and I also want to win, then Josh Allen becomes the most dangerous quarterback in football. Because that's when he stops making stupid decisions and starts making smart ones. He stops forcing the ball. He stops running around erratically, and he starts playing concise but athletic football. He brings it to you. You don't bring the violence to his doorstep. I feel like Josh Allen being a father is probably one of the best things to happen to him because it can center him and it can give him that focus of, okay, I'm going to narrow the whole world of things that might matter down to a handful. It's the same thing that happened to the guy in the movie The Hurt Locker. It all just gets small and you realize I only care about a handful of things. You're like, you have this whole world and it all just keeps shrinking. Well, now all Josh has to care about is his movie star wife, his soon-to-be child, and winning in Super Bowl here in Buffalo. Now, mind you, he doesn't get to cry at a podium ever again. He was a part of this process. Whether he likes it or not, he was a part of this hire. So if at any point in time he loses a game that's winnable, I don't want to hear him crying. I don't want to see him crying ever again at a podium like that because that was embarrassing now in retrospect.
I just want to put that out. There's Drew. This is you almost dying. That's you.
That was the same weekend.
Same weekend of Drew almost dying.
Well, yeah, once you almost die, you just hang dong. You just hang dong. You don't care. There's no consequences to anything. Life's short. You might as well wear no pants. Guys, all I know is we've retained a little bit of stability. We've retained a little bit of stability here. And I think that that's commendable for the team. How they got here, I don't like it. And I feel Greasy sort of liking it. Sort of liking it. I don't love it. I wish they had held out to at least talk to a Kubiak. Talk to a guy who has real Super Bowl credentials. Hey, guess what? He's the first guy on, he would have been the first coaching candidate we talked to who had been in a Super Bowl. They chose not to. So now here we are. And it's just wild to me.
Ralph Wilson said, nice summer dress.
On the front is a PBR logo. So, I'm classy.
Ryan Toggin, Thunder Thighs.
Hey, listen, I do.
Sean Delvin wearing a 1920 swimsuit.
This is why I love this podcast. I get to do this. Could you do this on terrestrial radio, Chris?
No, because we can't see your pasty white thighs on terrestrial radio.
Chris, before we get out of here, as we end this show, I started this because you approached me with a thing of, hey, you'd be funny on radio, and I want to make a portfolio so that if I ever want to go back to radio, I can prove to them I can edit, that I can do
I
things.
saw Bobby Kelly in July 2013. He is my favorite comedian, and he had a.
I don't want to see any more tears. Drew in a teal sundress. That's one of the greatest comments of the night.
Oh,
super Mexican.
No, I saw Robert Kelly in July of 2013, and he had a promotional poster for his podcast. I had no idea what it was, and he essentially pitched it to me as think of it, it's a radio show, except it's on the internet and you upload it and people can listen to it whenever they can. And I'm like, I can do that. And then it took 2 years, and because we were on different shifts, I was on a second shift, and then we got it started in June of 2015 with a couple of test recordings, and then we went live year one, week one, Rex Ryan's first year. So we've been through We're one of the few that have been through a coaching cycle doing content creation.
It's not lost on me that none of this would be possible without Chris Kruger. Chris is the best at what he does. He's one of my best friends. He's incredibly talented. And I love that we get to do a thing that even guys who make some money, I'm not going to say a bunch of money because I think me and Chris both out earn the people who work on Afternoon Drive, but I will say that,
dude, I've shared.
We have no constraints. We have no boss. We do this here and we get to do this. And I feel like it's moments like this right here. Joe Brady being hired as the Bills' new head coach is why podcasting exists.
Dude, I exchange a couple texts with, like, if you guys listen to Real Football with Tyler Dunn, you know, I produced that show. Like, I had exchanged a couple of texts with Tyler this week. Like, even today, I sent Tyler a text. I was like, hey, I've got time Wednesday, Thursday, Friday if you need me. You know, if he's going to record with somebody about this time. And Tyler Dunn's been all over in my feed. He's been on Rome. He's been on Colin Cowherd. And it just makes me feel good inside because I'm 1 degree of separation from Colin Cowherd and Jim Rome. I'm proud of myself.
Guys, this is all either going to work or it's going to be a disaster of epic proportions. It's going to be like crossing the streams in Ghostbusters if it goes poorly. But also it might work. That's what we've done. If there's an analogy I can leave you with, the Bills just crossed the streams. We're going to find out if for the rest of Josh Allen's career, this marriage works. And I'm fascinated to see how they build the staff around a Joe Brady, who they admit we love his CEO mentality. Okay, CEO, you have to be the boss of somebody. Who are you bossing around? Jim Leonard's a good start. Who's your offensive coordinator? I think there's a lot of questions left to be answered. There's still a lot of meat left on this coaching bone. And I think that a lot of things over the next coming weeks ahead of free agency will help us kind of figure out what this team's looking for.
6-3 Sabres.
God. One must fall so the other can rise. That's all I can come up with. Guys, thank you so much for everything this season. Everything you've given us, all of your time, your energy, your comments, your positivity, your negativity. You don't understand.
You thrive on negativity.
You don't understand. It's like that episode of Eastbound and Down when the Russian pitcher, who's the star of the
Ivan Dachenko.
The Merlins, and they go, oh, Ivan Dachenko, and he's like, oh yeah, he can't handle this type of heat. The fans are booing him, they're throwing batteries at him, and here comes Kenny Powers, and he goes, I can harness their hatred. I need it. You need to put me in. You need to put me in the game. And he goes out and strikes everybody out. I'm that guy. I love having conversations. I love just watching the conversation going on in our live chat. Also, what I love is the fact that you guys show up each and every week. And then I love looking at the comments every now and again. Now, I don't do it. I don't read YouTube comments. I don't read Reddit stuff. Chris does. And every now and again, he'll send me something and go, hey, somebody thinks that our show is beneath Joe Miller. I go, oh, that's hilarious. I'm going to go comment. I'm going to go respond to that guy. I love this. And I love you people, good or bad, because you're giving me my fix. And I just hope I do something for you.
Trade don't stop. We'll be back next week with a show.
I can't wait. We've got hires to talk about. We've got future how these hires impact draft strategy. We've got a wild summer ahead of us, guys. But for tonight, it's over 9:30. We got to get the hell out of here. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. You guys are gorgeous, and I love every single one of you. This has been the Rockpile Report.